What is up, everyone? Welcome into the Fight HQ preview for UFC Vegas number 70. Of course, I am Jason Floyd. That is the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. Good afternoon, Pete. How you doing, bro?
What's going on, everybody? Happy to be here to break down another fight card. And joined by the best co-host in the business, Jason Floyd. So what's up, everybody?
I'm doing good, man. Probably should turn the other computer monitor off here so we don't get a little bit of background noise. I forgot I had it on the other computer here. You know, I don't know if I'm a multiple computer setup guy here in the office, so that's kind of how I roll over here. But yeah, man, it's good, man. Did some fighter interviews yesterday, and had some long fighter interviews yesterday, so those will be on the podcast tomorrow. Unfortunately, one of the interviews did not happen, trying to get that guy back on the show next week. But of course, we're here to break down UFC Vegas number 70. Of course, if you got any questions, leave those right there in the comments, or be sure to join our Discord channel. Totally free to join, as you can chat with our community over there. And of course, we're in there all week long talking about everything going on in the world of mixed martial arts. Also, we do have a DraftKings contest going on, and we'll put that link to in the YouTube comments, so you want to sign up for that $10 entry free top 3 payout. As hey, how'd my ass look last week, Pete? That's all I gotta say. How'd that look?
I'll tell you what, it's good, man. You are the single entry guy, so that used to be me, and I don't know, on some of these volatile slates, it's just like, goodness gracious. But yes, congratulations, Jason. You took down the tournament. Hopefully we'll see if you can run it back this week. Happy to have anybody join that contest, and we really appreciate you guys being here, checking us out on YouTube. If you aren't subscribed already, please subscribe to the channel. Hang out with us in our Discord. The link is in the description. So yeah, it's fun when we have a community competing against each other, and I was really hoping that you were going to tank, and it seemed like I tanked in that contest. So but yeah, can't wait to see what we do this week. Because I do think it's a pretty tricky week when it comes to building.
Man, it's been a weird 2 weeks in MMA DFS. Usually we're talking about we got to get to 650, close to 700 points, and that has not been the case the past couple weeks. Of course, we lost 2 fights, and I know one of those fights was a fight that you were really looking at, the Garrett Armfield and Jose Johnson. That was actually one of the more interesting fights for me as well, just because I know both of those guys. We also lost the female matchup as well, so we're down to 11 fights. Hopefully we don't get any less, because if we start getting less, and you brought this point up right before the show, it's like, maybe a stack is viable today, even at 11 fights.
Yeah, and a stack could be viable. We have some really cheap underdogs. Not a lot of trustworthy fighters, though. And that's the issue this week, is you have question marks surrounding both sides on a lot of these matchups. Some people have a nice upside, but they have their deficiencies. Some people have clear advantages in their matchups, but tons of holes. So it comes down to who's going to bring the correct game plan. And I do think that lineup construction is going to be a little bit tricky this week, at least for me. If you feel confident in your lineup construction, God bless you, because I'm over here, especially for the community tournament. I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, how the heck am I going to do this for a single entry? I have an approach for my 150 max that I think is going to, be pretty beneficial. I want to get different in single entry though, and can't wait to discuss it with you.
Yeah, it's there's some interesting underdogs this week. I mean, there's some fights on this card that, man, it's boom bust to me. There's a couple of fights. I mean, there's several fights that I've labeled as GPP priorities. There's 2 fights that I've said limit exposure, and then there's a couple of fighters where I think we got some potential leverage opportunity based on what we're kind of see with ownership projections over here. Shine asking if we're watching the Bellator fights. Yeah, I've got the Bellator fights on. They've got like about 80 preliminary card fights before we get to the main card.
Bro, what the hell? I didn't even know Bellator was going on today. When I don't know a card is going on, it's quite ridiculous, because I'm like one of the most hardcore people out there. I had no idea. I woke up. I've also had a crazy couple of days and everything, and happy to have you guys here. Apologies for not having the show yesterday, but I didn't even know the card was there. A buddy posted it and said something about it being. Is it in Ireland? Because this is news to me.
It's in Dublin. It's the main event is the welterweight unification matchup between Yaroslav Amosov and Logan Storley. This is a rematch between those two guys. I totally expect Amosov to go out there and win. I really don't see, even though the first fight was was somewhat close, I just don't give a ton of chance for for Storley in that matchup. And then the other notable matchup I would say is Pedro Carvalho and Jeremy Kennedy, which is kind of, in a way, I've seen people label this like a number one contender fight, 145 pounds. Okay. If you say so.
Who is it? Carvalho and who?
Jeremy Kennedy.
Jeremy Kennedy's going to mop him. Jeremy Kennedy. What's the odds on that? Oh, I got to pull that up because I like Jeremy Kennedy a lot.
Yeah, I haven't looked. I was just pulling the link for the DraftKings contest. We'll put that in the chat so everyone wants to sign up in there. Of course, I remember lock is not till 4:30 today, so that's something to kind of think about.
Yeah, I mean, gives me some time after the show to crunch some lineups, see what I want to do. That main event is a little tricky, Jason. We got some untrustworthy fighters a part of the main event, and I do like the potential that both of them have. If there was only one 10-minute round, I think that Ryan Spann could be one of the best fighters out there. But the fact of the matter is that this is a 5-round fight, and we also have him going up against a guy who has such a well-rounded skill set, and Nikita Krylov. It's what's going to win out. Is Spann going to catch Krylov cold, or is Krylov going to be able to weather the storm and prove to be the better mixed martial artist with his 10-7 UFC record en route to a victory throughout the five round contest? So I am personally going to be leading with Nikita Krylov at 8,700. I like him there. I think the price point on both fighters is completely fine. The ownership seems to be just about right, and I do think that this should be a priority when it comes to building lineups, to be honest.
In terms of like when I look at the salaries here, 8,700 for Krylov on DK, 7,500 for Spann, and then 19 and 15 over there on FanDuel. Nikita Krylov a -170 betting favorite, plus 145 for Ryan Spann. I mean, look, I like getting to Spann in terms of GPPs just because of that 10-minute upside. To me, if he's going to win this fight, he's going to win by knockout within the first 2 rounds. But like you brought the point before the show of, if this thing is 25 minutes, Nikita Krylov may be the guy that breaks the slate.
I'm doing it just for a couple, and I don't expect it to actually happen. But can you imagine a stack of the main event taking down a GPP? Like, I bring it up all the time. It's super unlikely, but the Glover Teixeira, 𝗫𝗓 Prochazka, 2 of the best fighters in the world, and perhaps that's why, and because of the title implications, that's why we saw them dig deep en route to a 5-round or basically it ended in the 5th round, and it was craziness, and they both broke the slate. Can you just imagine, because of the salaries, naturally it makes it a lot easier to get to both of these fighters, and Nikita Krylov and Ryan Spann. I'm going to stack in just a very, very small amount of lineups in case that does happen. If that happens, I would imagine that the odds for either one of them to win via decision is completely astronomical. I mean, Nikita Krylov to win by decision, actually not as bad as I thought. Plus 600, whereas Ryan Spann to win by decision is plus 1,400. I thought the numbers on those would be a little bit larger.
Yeah.
Plus 600, I mean, that's not really that bad.
No, it's not. I mean, like when I look at the prop bets on this one, I kind of more look at that Nikita Krylov. I think a plus 215 win via submission is kind of an interesting one there. I mean, over at Prize Picks, his takedown prop is 1.5. I don't mind going more. If I will say this, that is not one of there are other plays over at Prize Picks that to me are much. I'll tell you this right now. My favorite play over at Prize Picks this week is the over 92.5 fantasy score on Tatiana Suarez. She's got multiple ways to get there.
Yeah, that's a bad line. I think that's a bad line. I mean,
and it hasn't, and I'm shocked it has not moved. I mean, like, in terms of the Prize Picks, I really don't love, or even Underdog Fantasy, I really don't love. I mean, if I was going to probably play anything, I'd probably go the takedown prop of 1.5. I mean, Krylov to me I would think that would be a path, but I think also the mindset if you're Krylov is just weathering that early storm because that storm's going to come. I have a lot of question marks in terms of Ryan Spann if the fight hits the 4th or 5th round.
Yeah, I can't imagine seeing what either one of these guys look like in the later rounds because Nikita Krylov is one of those fighters that looks exhausted, heavy breathing, like kind of just like he looks labored throughout the entire fight, but he keeps pushing. You know what I mean? Like certain fighters can push past that little threshold, and they can, even if they're tired, they can just keep that work rate high. He's one of those guys. Whereas Ryan Spann looks like the complete opposite. He looks like if he goes back to his stool, his head's going to be sunk between his knees and he's going to be exhausted and mentally defeated. So I will give the mental edge to Nikita Krylov, and I will also give the skill advantage to Nikita Krylov. I worry about the dangerous Ryan Spann finish. The power is pretty ridiculous. That was on display against Dominic Reyes. He came through for me. Ion Cutelaba, I don't like how he deals with strikes when he's starting to get hit on the feet. His chin, super susceptible to big shots. He has poor cardio. But throughout that chaos, he hunts the neck at such a spectacular rate that Nikita Krylov forces a lot of things, gets hit a lot, and forces a lot of double legs. Ion Cutelaba is a takedown artist, and Cutelaba was put in 3 or 4 guillotines before he was ultimately tapped. So you have to be very careful whenever you're going up against a guy who hunts the neck as well as Ryan Spann. But with all that being said, I'm still going Nikita Krylov here. I do think you need a split. For me, it's like a 60-40 split, but it's a lean towards Krylov. I think he gets it done.
And to me, it is a priority fight. It's a fight that I'm trying to get to here. Let's move over to the co-main event. You got a middleweight between Andre Muniz and Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen, $7,100 on DK, $14 on FanDuel, $9,100 for Muniz on DK, $20 over on FanDuel. Muniz is a minus 205 betting favorite, plus 175. And this is a fight that I've really been looking at a lot this week. And, I think it's, and Pete, we talk about this all the time, is we live in a sport where I think we always kind of remember the last thing we saw out of a fighter. And I think going into that Uriah Hall fight, our expectations were just through the roof for Andre Muniz. And so as I was looking at more of a underdog cash play, and obviously a big part of this is Brendan Allen being able to keep the fight on the feet. You don't want to play jiu-jitsu with Andre Muniz. I mean, that'd be like me going into a sparring session with Pete and going, hey, let's play karate. I think that's not going to work out well for me.
I like the comparison. I would agree. And I will say that Andre Muniz against Brendan Allen's a fascinating matchup because you have a guy in Andre Muniz who in straight up jiu-jitsu would have a field day with Brendan Allen. I think that Brendan Allen is a solid grappler, usually the better grappler within most of his matchups. If he's put in poor positions, as he has been throughout a ton of his fights, he's able to reverse positions pretty well. And he picks up reversals at a decent rate. He had 2 reversals against Kevin Holland, 4 reversals against Kyle Daukaus, which I'm going to go back to that matchup because I think that is pretty telling as to what's going to happen here. 2 reversals against Jacob Malkoun and 1 against Krzysztof Jotko. So whenever somebody's getting reversals, 2 ways to look at it. He's able to work out of poor positions, but it also means he's in poor positions often. So I personally think that Andre Muniz is going to win at least 2 of the 3 rounds. I don't think that it's going to be all that close because Muniz is such a solid back taker. Unlike most people, he will hunt an armbar finish from the back instead of just sticking to a rear naked choke, which it's so high level, but I actually don't like it a lot. I know it's worked out for him. But I was screaming at some of my fighters, during their competition because you're giving up a dominant position to chase a Hail Mary attempt when you're already winning. I just don't understand. But what I do like is Muniz times it pretty well. He does it within the final 15, 20 seconds of the round where it's okay, if I get it, great. If not, I still probably won the round. And that's where Uriah Hall was able to have any moments of success is when Andre Muniz just got a little too ballsy and tried to, get the finish instead of just riding him out en route to a solid decision. So he scored 91 against Uriah Hall. People will like to say, and I would agree, that Brendan Allen's a much better grappler than Uriah Hall. So if you couldn't finish Uriah Hall, pretty doubtful you're going to finish Brendan Allen. It's a fascinating thing about this sport, Jason, is that styles make fights. And Brendan Allen had his back taken numerous times against Kyle Daukaus. And in other matchups, I picked Jacob Malkoun to outwork Brendan Allen. He was outworking him, but he didn't get his hand raised in that contest. So if this stays on the feet, I do think that Brendan Allen will have an edge. I don't mind getting to the Brendan Allen underdog. I just personally don't think he's going to win. I think that, Andre Muniz will get a decision victory here. It's pretty tough to pick against a solid back taker, and Andre Muniz really fits that bill.
And that decision prop of plus 450 does stick out to me about Andre Muniz. I mean, if you want to go to Brandon Allen plus 400 over there on him, over on Prize Picks, I do like the over 8.5 fight time minutes on Andre Muniz. That's one that does stick out to me over there. I mean, look, it's, you know, the one thing about Andre Muniz is, can he win? You know, what's he, if he cannot get the fight to the ground, like someone bringing up a chat, if Allen keeps his fight on the feet, can he win a decision? I think he can if he can keep the fight on the feet. It's just, and looking, Aliev is going back and looking at the Uriah Hall fight and thinking, you know what? If Brandon Allen can just not stop the takedown offense and get into a kickboxing matchup as a cash play, I like him as a cash play underdog.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that assessment. I don't really think that he has tremendous GPP upside, just because I really think that Andre Muniz is the next. He's the real deal. Early on throughout his career, he has, in his losses, been knocked out. So that is something, if you are kind of just checking it out on paper, you're like, okay, well, Brendan Allen, if he sprawls and brawls, has that little Chuck Liddell type of approach, that's probably his best path to victory. Yes, I would agree with you. I just don't think it's going to happen. So 7,100, I'm going to get to him plenty. The ownership seems just about right. I actually would probably have a little bit more, if I'm being honest, just because it's ugly out there today.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, like today, I'm finding myself playing as much cash as I am in GPPs. You know, actually, because since we have no NBA or one this week, I was playing NHL DFS for the first time.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I didn't do too bad.
Really? Yeah, I was just, you know what I do to really increase my bankroll, and it's something that really always works out for me, is betting tennis. I love betting tennis. I'm so good at betting tennis, it's ridiculous. It's like the best thing to help me get ready for my MMA bankroll, and then cash out, boom, repeat the same process. So early on throughout the week, if some NBA is not working out for me, tennis, I can always count on tennis to really increase my bankroll.
Oh yeah, I love to go in and just play double ups and head to heads just in increase my bankroll.
There you go. And I'll tell you what, NASCAR too. So like NASCAR was fun. I didn't have a chance to really watch it last week, but if you guys enjoy any NASCAR content, please check out our buddy, Phil Benetton. He's fantastic, and he does a lot of great work. He's posted his link over on Twitter, and Jason, you know Phil pretty well and done some fantastic shows with him. So we really appreciate Phil. Phil's a great guy.
Oh yeah. I utilize his Substack over there, and tomorrow will be Chalk City over there. If you want to play NASCAR tomorrow, qualifying got rained out today, so it's gonna be Chalk City tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, I'll be look, I'm trying to get a little bankroll to add on for those NASCAR lines tomorrow. I check out Phil. I also check out Chris Pinnell, who I've done some shows with in the past. I just check out. I listen to both those guys, and I kind of I put my mind together. Of course, if you're over there, if you're watching this live on YouTube, if you go in the links, we do have a link for Stochastic 25% off. You can take advantage of that for MMA. Appreciate the people that have been taking advantage of that. Got some email notifications this week on that commission. So appreciate everyone checking it out. That's a great way to show your support here for what we're doing here at Fight HQ. Of course, if you're not subscribed to the channel, be sure to do that. We're trying to get over 1,000 subscribers so we can get this channel monetized. That's that'll help out me and Pete. I mean, that's just the reality of it. But of course, hit that thumbs up, and we do appreciate that as well. Of course, you got any questions, line those up in the chat. We'll get to those throughout the show. Let's move over next up. A heavyweight matchup. We got Augusto Sakai versus Don'Tale Mayes. And Pete, this is a limited exposure fight for me in terms of these two guys. 8,300 for Augusto Sakai, 7,900 for Don'Tale Mayes. Over there on FanDuel, kind of interesting, $16.14. Augusto Sakai, a minus 135 betting favorite, plus 115 for Don'Tale Mayes. This has got, if you're just looking to bet on fights, over 2.5 rounds, fight goes the distance. I mean, this to me has got 15-minute decision written all over it, and I think Augusto Sakai is going to walk away with decision.
Wow. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I don't trust this fight, and I would love a day where I don't have to talk about these fights like this. You know what I mean? Like, it's quite ridiculous how some of these volatile matchups, people just hang around, and, if we didn't do this show, I would never talk about this fight, but because we have to break down this fight, I have to pick a side. I don't trust either one. How can you trust Augusto Sakai on a 4-fight losing streak? All 4 TKO losses: Sergey Spivak, Tai Tuivasa, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Alistair Overeem. absolute murderer's row. So like complete killers. Now he's going up against Don'Tale Mayes, who I don't think is good at all. I was never a Don'Tale Mayes guy. He's 2-3 in the UFC. His only two finished defeats were back-to-back against Ciryl Gane and Rodrigo Nascimento, both submission defeats. And then 2-fight win streak over Roque Martinez, Josh Parisian, and a split decision loss to Hamdi Abdelwahab. How can you trust either one of these guys? If I didn't know that Augusto Sakai was on a 4-fight losing streak, all 4 TKO finishes, I'd be picking Augusto Sakai to win a decision. I'm with you. You know, the fact of the matter is I don't think that he can absorb these strikes. I think in sparring in the gym at ATT, surrounded by the best athletes in the world, he's going to be prepared in all areas of the fight. I think the issue becomes when you switch over to small gloves, your chin can only take so much. And in the heavyweight division, it really doesn't take much to put somebody's lights out. And I just don't like how he responds. So I'm going to be picking Don'Tale Mayes just by default. I think that he could walk into a finish just because of Augusto Sakai's, durability in 2023. But I don't have any faith in either one of these guys. I hope it's a terrible decision and neither one of them are part of the optimal lineup. Kind of surprising that Don'Tale Mayes doesn't carry any more ownership despite the durability concerns on the opposite end against Augusto Sakai. So it's like you have a guy who's fallen from grace, used to be a solid heavyweight fighter, would have decent volume, but now really can't take a shot against a guy who is completely low level, bottom of the barrel in the UFC heavyweight division. What wins out? So I'm going to pick and lean Don'Tale Mayes, but I mean, you can make an argument for either one of these guys. I will just hopefully pass. It seems like a sloppy heavyweight fight.
Yeah, I mean, 𝗵𝗵 just put that in the chat. Yeah, this is sloppy heavyweight
Yeah.
written all over it. I mean, look, like from a betting perspective, I think the fight goes a distance plus 150. I think is one that sticks out to me. Either one of these guys win via decision, I think is a good one. I mean, look, this is my question with Don'Tale Mayes. Is you have one side of the fight in Augusto Sakai, who's fought the top end of this division, where Don'Tale Mayes has not. That to me is my biggest concern.
Yeah, I mean, but like, I would agree with you. It's the fact that he picked up a split decision over Blagoy Ivanov is kind of ridiculous. He finished Marcin Tybura, which I think is easily his best performance inside the UFC. He scored 131 in that performance. I just don't see that happening. Because I think after you get knocked out so much, you are less inclined to get into a slugfest because you are so worried. In the back of his head, he's just going to stick and move, try his best to not get hit with a big shot. Because in most of these fights, like he's doing well until he's not. You know what I mean? And it's ugly, absolutely ugly. So I'll be picking Don'Tale Mayes, but I hate the fight.
I do like the over 10 minute fight time minutes for Augusto Sakai over there on Prize Picks. I think it's one of those props that does stick out to me. By the way, Pete, I don't know if you've heard the good news.
What?
You realize today is the last UFC Apex card till like the end of April?
Oh, really?
Yeah, the next 6 cards are all in front of fans.
I know you're an Apex hater, so it makes... I'll tell you, it was really cool.
Were you watching last week?
Yeah, but okay, let me explain.
The matchmaking is awful for these Apex shows.
Okay, yeah, you're not wrong. It's
exactly.
just fight.
You can say I'm right. I know.
Well, you're not wrong. I won't say you're right. You're not wrong. But I will say that like when it was no fans and it was just the fighters and it was like really, really cool because it seemed like everything was amplified. Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje's one that really sticks out. Like it seems very brutal, but also pure at the same point. The second they start selling all these tickets at the Apex, it's like, why aren't you doing it in front of a legitimate crowd? So I'm with you. The time has come. Get back to all cards, at least most of them, in front of a live audience.
Dude, for the most part, that card was crap last week.
Oh, for sure. Hold on. Let's touch on this. What was last week? Blanchfield? My girl Blanchfield?
Okay, all right. Literally, you're probably going to name about 3 fights. Do you want to talk William Knight?
No, I do not want to talk about that. There was, my gosh.
I'll say this. I got to give some kudos to William Knight's corner, as they're just basically like, hey, bro, you want to fight?
Yeah. Crazy.
I will say this. Carpenter, I love the slick transitions on the ground in the opening
I
fight of
didn't
the
see
night.
that fight. I didn't see that fight.
That was slick. I mean, look, if you had said Jordan Wright was going to be in a boring fight, I'd been like, no way. Well, that's what happened. And that was more on his opponent.
Yeah, they're both not good.
I didn't get the 30-27 for Alex Hernandez. I thought it was 29-28.
Agree, 29-28.
I thought it was a close fight. You know, I had Jim Miller was kind of a cash core for me last week. I'm trying to think of other fights off the top of my head.
My girl Blanchfield. That's the only one that we need to talk about.
Philippe Lins, who had him. He was a core play for me last week. He was a slate breaker.
Yeah, let's give Jason some credit there. Holy moly! You know what I did last week, and then I took it away. I built a large portion of my lineups with the fighter I was most confident in and the fighter you were most confident in. If I did that and stuck with it, do you realize how it was a good week? I took it down last week, but it was a chop. Like that was awesome. You were right on the money when it came to Philippe Lins. He was like absolutely fantastic. Didn't let OSP get into a rhythm at all.
Yeah, I mean, and you got the quick finish bonus on that one. I mean, like I know we were talking about it last week. If you just we talked about that parlay of those first three fights, and they were 3 of the top 5 scores on that card last week. Bueno Silva scoring 108 points. Blanchfield looked great, 97 points. AJ Fletcher 87 points. I didn't like how much he was playing jiu-jitsu against a guy who does jiu-jitsu. I did not like that. That was kind of scary.
Yeah, not at all. It was like I was out to eat because we had our grappling tournament last week, and me and my dad, we were grabbing a bite to eat, and then I was like, "Hey, we got to root for this guy," and I was like, "What the hell is he doing?" Like, yeah, I don't know. It seemed like a guy who didn't have the confidence that he used to. You know what I mean? Like when you're on a skid, he just did not look the same. He got it done, but when I saw his points, what'd you say it was 87? I was like, yeah, I had him in all 150 lineups. So I'm like, he's not going to pay off. Oddly enough, it was a weird week.
Yeah, the one thing that was kind of the was frustrating because I did have a lot of the William Knight fight and Prachnio was like, I mean, like it was that point of like if you're, I didn't understand the Prachnio corner. Like, why were they not just going, hey man, just start flinging some punches? Like it was almost like he was a UFC 4 video game player who just knew how to leg kick, and it was just, and I'm just like, dude, like. The funniest part about that whole thing was like going into a fight, Brendan Fitzgerald's like, man, we got a banger coming up. And then about 3 minutes into the fight, he goes, well, William Knight's thrown one strike.
Yeah, I didn't think that was going to happen. And I viewed it as a GPP priority just because of the price and how untrustworthy both guys were. And I couldn't have been more wrong on that fight. And yeah, I kind of want to forget about that performance. That was just a complete terrible fight. So luckily we have somebody returning this week that I think we're all pretty excited on.
Yes, it's been a long time coming. She's not fought since June of 2019. Tatiana Suarez, as she takes on Montana De La Rosa. She is 9,600 on DK, $22 on FanDuel. Montana De La Rosa, $6,609. Tatiana is a minus 750 betting favorite, plus 550 on the other side here. And really, Pete, to me, I don't see a path to Montana De La Rosa winning this fight. I mean, she's going to have to try to do it on the feet. I just don't think that she can do that. To me, it's just more of a question of can Tatiana Suarez pay off the price point over there on DraftKings and on FanDuel. I will say this. I love Tatiana Suarez over 92.5 fantasy score on Prize Picks.
I'll tell you what, man. I think we found the lock button today, at least for me. And it's going to be Tatiana Suarez. The layoff does concern me a little bit, but not really because I might be biased. I'm on a pretty big layoff right now. And I know I would favor me, the same when it comes to certain matchups just because I know I'm working. It's not like I'm, just completely like I'm retired and away from the sport. I still think that, she's been around. She's been training a lot. She's just an absolute monster. She's probably the best grappler, best wrestling threat within any division. And she just possesses such a high ceiling. I mean, she took Carla Esparza down 9 times. 9 out of 11 attempts. Nina Ansaroff, oddly enough, she landed 4 of 13. I just think that she is a slate-breaking material. It's the price point, though. 9,600. Do you want to get there? I'm going to. Last week, we had Mayra Bueno Silva. I didn't get to her a lot, but even in the lineups that I had with her, it helped because she ended up being needed. Some of the other 9,000 options disappointed, and she was the easiest play on the slate. It just comes down to price versus performance. This week, we have Tatiana Suarez, who, unlike Mayra Bueno Silva, has scored 98 in her lowest performance inside the UFC. Other fights, 121, 115, 104, 156. That's the one I want to talk about because I do think she has that Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington ceiling. And Martina De La Rosa is a pretty good grappler and wrestler herself, and that can actually boost the totals of Tatiana Suarez here. Ring rust is a real thing. That's probably why I don't know if she'll finish Martina De La Rosa, but finish aside, I think that she really fits the bill as the safest play on the slate, or my personal favorite. I'm going to get to her. I'm going to lock button her. I just think she gets it done. Outside of a Hail Mary submission attempt like a Martina De La Rosa armbar from guard, low-level women's MMA, I don't see how she wins here. I have to be honest.
Yeah, I don't see it either. I know we're probably going to have a little disagreement later on the show about who is my most confident pick of this slate.
Oh, yeah.
But I was just going to run a crunch here. I'm going to do 150, and I'm locking in Tatiana Suarez. And I just want to see who's my second highest exposure. Oh, I'm not liking who's coming in number 2 already.
Oh, let me do it.
Osborne.
Yeah, well, I'm not an
no, that was just a straight up dummy crunch. Let me throw in some.
Oh wow, I see what's going on too.
Let me change my randomness and my uniques. Typically, for those who want to know, I typically do 2 uniques and 20% randomness. This is a dummy crunch. I mean, obviously, when I start really making my lineups here, I'll be putting in some groups and whatnot.
Yeah.
O'Day still coming in at number 2, 39%.
Yeah, it's a little too aggressive for me. I will tell you that Sam, yes, I did say lock. Last week, I said I was super aggressive on AJ Fletcher, and I actually ended up locking him into almost every single lineup. I think every lineup. I'll just take the points, to be honest.
I just tell you, so I just did for because I'm a 20 max kind of guy. I don't mind what just spit out the 20 max. Krylov, Selecki, both 55%. I don't mind that.
Yeah, I'm not.
I will say this. I'm not, and we'll get more of these fires a little bit later on. I'm not huge on Osborne. Obviously, first round upside with him. First round upside. Jasmine, I just don't like that fight for GPP. I'm just.
Same.
I mean, I would, honestly, when I start going in there, that's probably a fight that I'm capping them at 20%.
Yep, I like that.
I'll cap Dontel Mays and Augusto Sakai 20 at the absolute most.
Okay.
But like there are some fighters that did initially come up in the crunch that I want to get to more of. Aliev is one of them. Peak is another. Malott would be another one of fighters that I want to get to more than what it's currently spitting out.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to have the high-end combinations, right? Because we don't have a ton of underdogs that we love. We don't have a Alexander Volkanovski sitting there, 6,700 broken price tag, 5-round potential. We have a Martina De La Rosa, a Carl Deaton, Johan Lainesse, Brendan Allen, and that's why I think like people are kind of grasping for straws here, and grasping at straws. It's just like Brendan Allen. I'm not on the Brendan Allen train today. I could be wrong.
You better hope he don't win. I'm gonna blow your damn phone up.
Well, I mean, it's okay. I'm gonna have enough, but I'm not gonna confidently say that I like him that much more than the other. I think they're all the same. So why the hell am I gonna have 30% one guy and everybody else going overlooked? I'm telling you, and I'm gonna tell you my build. And when I take it down today, you're gonna be like very surprised because it's gonna be a completely strange build.
Well, you had a great week last week outside of the listener league.
You had to throw that in there. You're right, though.
No. I mean, look,
if you're not in a listener league, please join it because it's really fun to go back and forth on Discord and then see who's actually doing well. And you guys are sharp, and whether you're listening to us and take little bits and pieces, listen to Jason. And that's kind of like what I have to do also, is take what Jason says into consideration, because every now and then he's right. So the 𝗵𝗀𝗀𝗀 call, I wish I was so
look,
aggressive.
that was more of a going against OSP more than anything else.
That was such a good call. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I'm sitting here at the house, and like as he's raining down punches, I'm like, "Come on, ref, stop the fight! I need that. I need those 25 points."
He got the quick win bonus too, didn't he?
Yeah. That's why he got 132.
There we go.
Yeah, it's but that's one of the things that like the next fight, I think, is a fight in terms of GPPs that you have to be really looking at on both sides of the equation. Mike Malott and Johan Lainesse, 9,200 for Malott, 7,000 for Johan, 21-10 over there in FanDuel. Malott a -215 betting favorite, plus 185 for Lainesse. I mean, look, if Mike Malott's going to win this fight, it is going to be him utilizing grappling, Pete. But I am scared of the crap if he can't get this fight to the ground, and I have a lot of question marks about that chin.
Yeah, so let's talk about this fight, because both of these guys have trained together. So when I know that guys have trained together, I really take a really cautious approach, just because if they're friendly with each other, which these guys are friendly towards each other, they almost don't risk it. I want fighters to go out there and risk it for the biscuit. And I think that Mike Malott and Johan Lainesse could be a little too measured. And it's uncharacteristic for either one of them to be measured, but it's different when you're on opposite ends with somebody who knows you well, or with somebody that you actually care for. It's not like they ever had bad blood. So I like it when people train together and then they have a little bad blood. You saw like Ciryl Gane, Francis Ngannou, that was more so of the corner and coaches against Francis Ngannou than anything. But this is an interesting one for me. We have Mike Malott, who he's very good, and you've always heard of great things about him because of his coaching tenure at Team Alpha Male. Now coming back after a decent layoff. I mean, he was in there in 2022, but prior to that, like, he took a couple years off, almost 3 years, exactly 3 years from competition, from 2017 to 2020. If you look at his record, tons of first round finishes. So that's great, right? What happens when he doesn't get it? And that's the one thing I'm going to say. And how can you be 8-1 and not go in the second round? That's kind of crazy for me. And it's like there's so many unknowns about how he looks in rounds 2 and rounds 3. Never mind the fact that he used to compete at much smaller division. Now he's matured. He's 170 pounds, but like, this is the same guy back in 2014 who was fighting at 145 pounds. Johan Lainesse is a monster. He's probably going to be like 195 pounds in the cage tonight. So you have a guy in Johan Lainesse who has poor cardio. Talked about how he's been working on it a lot with Firas Zahabi and everybody at TriStar. He's also cross-trained and been at, Kill Cliff FC. So I don't trust the durability of Mike Malott. I don't trust the cardio and skills of Johan Lainesse. So I'm forced to just go to Johan Lainesse today. I have to be honest, because of the price point, the disparity in salaries, the disparity in odds. Like, I just think it's a much closer fight. We saw Mickey Gall touch up Mike Malott on the feet just a little bit, had his nose leaking before Mike Malott really found that beautiful left hook. Mike Malott was having plenty of success on the feet, but he's hittable. And if you're hittable against a power machine in Johan Lainesse, despite his limitations, I think I have to lean Johan Lainesse. I mean, there was a time, I'm pretty sure I picked Johan to upset Gabe Green, and it looked great when he knocked him down. But, it did not look good when he became the nail in that situation and Gabe Green finished him in the second round. So I'm going to go Johan Lainesse at 7,000. I'm kind of surprised he's not as popular as I thought he'd be. I think that people need to get more of that fight because there are concerns on both sides.
Like, look, when I look at the lower end of salaries on DK, from a GPP perspective, Johan is someone I'd rather get to over a Brendan Allen because of the finishing upside. But on the cash side of the equation, I'd rather get to a Brendan Allen because I just feel more confident what that floor could be as opposed to what the ceiling could be. I mean, like, but look, it's question marks on both sides, but Mike Malott could very easily go out and be a slate breaker with takedowns.
Yeah, he could be. And that could be the ace up his sleeve that we don't really know. I don't think that Johan's a poor grappler. I think that he's okay. He's usually the guy that can get in top position. Darian Weeks was trying to take down Johan Lainesse. And we did see that Johan can defend some takedowns, but man, if you could test that cardio, he had to defend 8 takedowns against Darian Weeks. It's just interesting to me. So I'll be leaning with Johan.
I mean, look, this is a tough week to get different because we only have 11 fights. I think when you're looking at that, 8,900 salary and up over on DraftKings, Mike Malott may be the guy to kind of look at in terms of, because we know all the other ones are going to have high ownership. So he may be a way to get a little bit different there. Let's move over to the next matchup. We got Trevor Peek taking on Eric Gonzalez. 8,900 for Trevor Peek and 7,300 for Gonzalez. And over on FanDuel, 20-11. Trevor Peek nearly a 2-1 betting favorite in this one, -190, +160 for Eric Gonzalez.
Good Lord. This matchup, my goodness. I think somebody's getting finished, and I don't think that's like, it takes a genius to say that. I don't trust either one of these guys. Trevor Peek looked very bad in round 1 on the Contender Series. He showed phenomenal toughness, so let's give him his credit when it comes to that. Super tough. Got hit with so many shots, looked like he was on the ropes and was about to be finished numerous times. Was able to withstand the adversity, overcome it, and ended up putting together one of the best come from behind victories I've seen, honestly, in a very long time. He throws absolute hammers on the feet. He is reckless. He's a brawler, and he's going to be facing a brawler in Eric Gonzalez. So when you have 2 brawlers going up there, it's a coin flip. It really is a coin flip. I think that from everything I've seen from Trevor Peek, there is a little bit more to like than Eric Gonzalez, but I do view these guys with somewhat amateur tendencies where they just sling leather, hope for the best, close their eyes, wing it, and just try to, end the fight early, which could lead to an early stoppage or could lead to a cardio collapse en route to the other fighter, kind of overtaking and getting a victory. So seems like a lot of people are just picking against Eric Gonzalez here. I completely understand it. If we want to be fair, he has actually competed at 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. So like he's fought a little bit higher competition, some names throughout his resume, but I don't think that he's really all that talented. What he does to make up for the striking sometimes is he'll start to incorporate some wrestling. He's not good at it, but he'll smother and try to get the fight to the mat. But he's tough. So we got 2 tough guys who are going to sling leather. Eric Gonzalez was finished against Jim Miller. Does not really look good, but I'll tell you what, Jim Miller's, I don't really hate that loss. Like, Jim Miller's a tough guy to debut against. You follow it up against one of the best round 1 fighters in Terrence McKinney. 2 really tough fighters. You think that he's going to get finished here against Trevor Peek? I think he's going to, but like, I view this much closer, whereas the ownership is one way. I can see it going the opposite way too, because Trevor Peek is human. He looked very bad in his Contender Series fight in round 1. How are the octagon jitters going to affect him here? That's a legitimate concern. How is he going to deal with wrestling if wrestling is there? Just so many question marks that a ton of people are kind of ignoring. I'm going to be picking Trevor Peek to win via knockout though. But like, as far as GPPs, I think the under 2.5 is the play here. I don't think this reaches the final bell.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking for a parlay piece, maybe you hate to use the S word as in safe, but I feel like under 2.5 rounds on this one, it feels pretty good. I mean, and when you look at the prop bets over here, I think it kind of tells you how the betting public sees this one. Inside the distance, Trevor Peek -138. Trevor Peek wins via TKO KO -135. Fight goes the distance is plus 300. So I'll tell you a little bit there. And it's
Good
plus
Lord.
700 to win via decision on both sides of the equation here. This is one, and this is why I label this fight as a priority fight in terms of GPPs. Now, a fight that's not a priority to me is a female matchup between Gabrielle and Jasmine. Jasmine 7,800, 8,400 for Gabriella, 17 and 12 over there on FanDuel. Gabrielle a minus 125 betting favorite. Pete, this has got 15-minute decision written all over for me.
It sure does. It sure does. And Gabriela Fernandez making her octagon debut. Very, very tough. Big, powerful for the division. It looks like she lifts a ton of weights. It looks like she has a great supplement program. It seems like she's very strong for the flyweight division. She looks like, somebody who competes in like CrossFit games. She just really has a fantastic physique. With all that muscle, there could be very, very poor cardio. You combine that with her inability to defend takedowns sometimes, you could have a ceiling performance from 𝗵𝗲𝗀𝗀 𝗬𝐵𝐵𝐻, who I actually held in pretty high regard because of her wrestling, credentials. She's a pretty solid wrestler and, picked up a victory over Kay Hansen, attempted 3 takedowns, landed 2, had a decent amount of control time, 6 minutes of control time en route to an 85-point decision against Talia Silva. She really tried to get the fight to the mat, went 0 of 6 in the takedown department. But Talia Silva had a complete breakout performance there. She beat her to an oblivion, and just like completely, it was just levels. And Talia Silva had question marks surrounding her, but she answered all those questions, and it made it look like 𝗵𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 didn't belong in there. So I will say that there are unknowns here. And typically in women's MMA, when there are unknowns, I like to side with the underdog. I just can't do it because of like 𝗵𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 𝗬𝐵𝐻 seems very hittable on the feet. She doesn't throw with significant volume. I don't think she's going to be stronger than Gabriela Fernandez. A way to get a victory over somebody who has poor defense, but is strong is just by increasing your work rate. And I don't really like the work rate of 𝗵𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. If she throws 100 strikes, she'll land like 25 or 30. I don't think she's going to be, I don't think she's going to be strong enough to get Gabriela Fernandez down to the mat. And even if she does, I think that, Gabriela is dangerous enough in the submission department. So she has to be careful. So the switch to American Top Team, well, going to Coconut Creek to get in some work with some other women within the division, I think is interesting. But I'm still going to be picking Gabriela Fernandez here. This is not a priority fight for me. I hope it's not a week where this fight is a part of the optimal, because I'm going to scroll past it in a good portion of my lineups. I won't ignore it just because it's kind of tough to ignore any fight on a slate like today. But I'll be picking Gabriela Fernandez, but I really hope it's not a part of the optimal.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a fight that I'm going to limit exposure to. Now we get into the who do you trust more fight. And, of course, it's your favorite salary of the week, the 8,200, 8,000, Jordan Levitt versus Victor Martinez. Martinez is the 8,200 fighter here. He is a slight betting favorite, minus 115, minus 105 for Jordan Levitt. Jiu-jitsu versus striking is about the best way to put this one, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, just do the opposite of whatever I tell you guys on the 8,200, 8,000 fight, because goodness gracious, my track history has to be horrendous when it comes to this. Listen to Jason when it comes to this. So, but I will say is that Jordan Levitt. No, are you bad too?
Bro, no. This fight in particular. Now, remember, wasn't our 8,000 fight? Wasn't that Pacquiao and
William Knight?
William Knight last week? Yeah. Like this is the thing with this one. Like, we know Levitt needs to get the fight to the ground. We know
Can he?
Right. The one thing that I in how many times have me and you sat here on this show and talked about how a jiu-jitsu guy can get the fight to the ground versus how a wrestler can get to the ground? And my whole, like, I feel like it's a priority fight for me. I want to get to both sides of this equation, but they both scare the crap out of me.
I will give Jordan Levitt some credit though. I think that he has better takedowns than most jiu-jitsu practitioners. Like, I will actually say that he has pretty solid wrestling. He took Claudio Puelles down 2 times, Matt Wiman down once with the slam, Matt Sales 1 time, Paddy Pimblett 3 times. He has a phenomenal single leg takedown. He'll go high single into a triple a lot. He'll go high single into a dump. He will chain wrestle a little bit. Anything to get his hands on you. So I don't view him as like a fish out of the water when it comes to takedowns. Sometimes jiu-jitsu guys are great when it hits the mat, but they don't know how to get it there. He has some pretty good throws as well. He'll throw uchimadas if he can have that good whizzer and somebody's, rushing into him. He will step across and work his haragoshis for his judo throws and everything. So I think that Jordan Levitt is the pick, and that's who I'm going to go with, because if it hits the mat, he has a knack for taking people's backs. He has a great head and arm set where he will go from front headlock, just chaining things together, from guillotines to anacondas and darces to, nope, I'm not going for that. I'm going to take your back. If people start turning in, he'll go, to an arm triangle choke. So he just is so submission savvy. I have to bet him here. And he looked pretty good against Paddy Pimblett early on. Paddy Pimblett's a very, very talented submission fighter. Ended up getting submitted against Paddy Pimblett because of the unique way that Paddy can really threaten you. But he did score 35 points, and the fight ended in the second round. So I think that, we have a pretty solid spot here for Jordan Levitt. The issue is on the feet. I think that he's very poor. His hands are very high. He'll throw front kicks to the body. So he keeps his guard up at a decent rate. It's just like if he's ever forced to truly, truly strike and gets a banger, which Victor Martinez slips and rips pretty well. So it's really good right hands over the top. I think he can have some trouble. But I don't think that Victor Martinez is the guy. So I'm going to be picking Jordan Levitt here. I think he gets the submission finish. If he doesn't, I think it's going to be somewhat of like takedown city. But yeah, relatively low confidence. But I have to go with the UFC veteran here in Jordan Levitt.
Like, look, if you're looking to get a little bit of leverage on the field, I don't mind getting the Victor Martinez. But Pete, I have to really question you about something.
Why?
I didn't realize you're a syndicate MMA backer these days.
I know, bro. I'm really not. I'm not. Jordan Levitt's like one of the few people. Well, I tell you what, my track record against syndicate MMA is pretty great, because it seems like every time I'm on the right side of that. So Jordan Levitt's going to win this fight, though. I'd like to believe.
Yeah, I mean, plus 200 win via submission is a prop that does stick out to me there, and I do like the fancy score over 69.5 of Levitt over there on Prize Picks. I mean, if he gets a stoppage, he's gonna beat that number there. But I mean, look, but if you're Victor Martinez, it is about keeping on the feet. But where Levitt's score could inflate is Martinez's ability to scramble, get up, and then just Levitt takes him right back to the ground. But I'm just gonna say this. Since Levitt is in my cash lineup, I hope we see a little twerking after his fight's over.
Oh God, I hope we see it. I hope we don't. I mean,
no. If he's doing it, that means he just went out there and won, and that's probably gonna be good for my lineups.
How about this? I hope we see his hand raised. I hope I don't see him twerk at all. I don't care what the heck happens. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with Jordan Levitt here in hopes that he can get it done. And Jason, we got almost 200 people checking us out on Fight Day. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. If you guys can hit that like button, if we can get to 120, that would be excellent. That would be a really nice goal for us. Everything you guys do for us was truly appreciated. And a couple more fights to break down, and then a 2-hour gap between action.
Yep, and we got a catchweight battle of 130 pounds between Osborne and Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson, 9,000 on DK, 7,200 for 17-12 over there on FanDuel. Charles Johnson, a minus 170 favorite to Osborne, minus 145. Charles Johnson has been training over there in Thailand at Tiger Muay Thai to get ready for this one. And, I mean, look, when it comes to Osborne, Pete, first round upside, no question about it. And Charles Johnson can sometimes be a little bit of a slow starter. So that's kind of, I think if you're an Osborne backer in this one, that's got to be something that you really enjoy. But if you're going to be an backer, I think you have to be honest with yourself and say, man, if this thing doesn't get finished in the first round, you're probably going to be a little concerned.
Yeah, I'm not an guy. I think on paper you could be an guy just because it's the flyweight division. You know that he's fought pretty talented competition. He's 3-3 under the UFC banner. And you have Charles Johnson, who, outside of his previous performance against Jimmy Flick, who was on a pretty long hiatus from MMA competition, an arguable loss to 𝗲𝗵𝗲 where he did pick up the split decision victory. A lot of people scored it the opposite way. And then he was completely dominated against Muhammad Mokaev, but he was not finished. So that's something to take from that performance. He gets back to his feet really well, and he's a fantastic striker. Good boxing, pretty measured, where I think that Ode Osborne is the more reckless of the two. And if you go and you look at his box score or his record, you will see that. Lots of early finishes. He kind of goes out on his shield. So he gets the finish, or he goes out and gets finished. So, in this salary range, it's nice to pick up a 7,000 fighter that'll go out there and fight for your money and try to pick up that 100 points. But it's also nice when you have a fighter within the 7,000 range that could win a decision. I don't think he can really win a decision here. It's possible, but I mean, CJ Vergara, who's solid, nothing truly special. Ode Osborne won a decision and only scored 69 fantasy points. Got 1 of 7 takedowns, and threw 194 significant strikes, landed 79. So that's pretty poor accuracy. I mean, it's okay accuracy, but I would expect more from the flyweight division. I would expect good volume, good accuracy, good output, solid pacing. When you get knocked out against Tyson Nam, when you get knocked out against Minnow Kopp, when you get finished against Brian Kelleher, it's not really much to kind of hate, but it does show that you are susceptible to get finished. The two guys that he has finishes over inside the UFC, and Jerome Rivera, Zaruk Adashev, are both outside the promotion. So with all that being said, I'm going to go Charles Johnson. I just think that it's his fight to lose. Outside of getting hit with a big shot, I think he's going to be the better minute winner. He can win a decision. He could win via late stoppage. I think 9,000 is fine. But if you are going and looking salaries in relation to odds, it does seem like Charles Johnson's salary exceeds his odds. Like when I see him with a 9,000 price tag, I thought he'd be, 200 minus 200 favorite. He's a minus 160, minus 170 favorite. So I do think that the price tag's pretty expensive for a flyweight who's only favored, minus 170.
Yeah, you're talking to 𝗃𝐬𝗓 𝗏𝗏. He's a 170 betting favorite. He's 8,700 on DK.
Correct.
But I do understand why you want to get there, and I understand why the ownership is what it is on Ode Osborne, because it's all about that first round upside. Because if he goes out there and wins, the reality is he's getting a knockout in the first round. But I would much rather get to Charles Johnson there. Now let's move over to our next matchup.
I can't wait. I just can't wait. And I think, okay.
Why you hate Joe Selecki? Why you hate
I don't hate Joe Selecki. Jason's fanboying right now. And I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. Go ahead. Sell me. Sell me right now, please. I just want to hear it all. Give me your analysis of this fight, because I don't disagree with it, but I think you're completely underestimating one thing. But let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Look, Joe Selecki I am very tempted to lock him in.
Get the hell out of here, Jason, bro. Really?
Look, I think he's going to get this fight to the ground and submit him pretty easily.
Keep going. I want to hear it.
Look, I've seen Carl Deaton for years. I just don't think he's at this level. I just don't. And to me, this was a handpicked matchup for Joe Selecki in terms of this matchup. His manager has a very good relationship with the UFC matchmakers. Let's just say that. To me, this is a handpicked matchup. They picked this matchup for a reason. I think he gets to the ground. He submits him within 7.5 minutes.
I love it when Jason and I disagree. And I will say, regardless of strength of schedule, when you develop a 17-5 record, that's solid. You have to be doing something right. I will say Joe Selecki is the rightful favorite. Okay, that's not news to anybody. When you start approaching 5-1, 6-7-1 territory, you better be Khamzat Chimaev. You better be somebody that people view as a complete challenger, because come fight night, if you're fighting somebody who has a better record, regardless of strength of schedule, if you're fighting a guy that has a ton of experience, I just think fights are closer than that. Fights are a lot closer than that. And Joe Selecki, very talented in the jiu-jitsu department. We've seen him compete grappling-wise, submit Cowboy Cerrone. We've seen him, pick up a submission against Austin Hubbard. We've also seen him fail to get submissions. He attempted to get 3 submissions against Alex da Silva, who seems somewhat fraudulent as well, seemed like to have a very padded record, scored 68. Jared Gordon, my old roommate at the BMF ranch, very tough fight. My boy Jared ended up pulling that out. Decision victory over Jim Miller. The one that really bothers me, if I'm being honest, is not picking up a finish over Matt Wyman. Granted, that's in your UFC debut. He got 4 of 5 takedown attempts, had 12 minutes of control time. After that fight, it seemed like he started to really develop his back-taking style where he can backpack people en route to rear naked chokes. That's probably, if you had to line a submission for Joe Selecki, that's probably the most likely submission, is taking Carl Deaton's back, getting a rear naked choke. My issue is, if he doesn't take the back, I think this is a closer fight. I love back takers, so I just made the case for Andre Muniz. Totally get it. But even Andre Muniz is not a 6 to 7 to 1 favorite. Granted, that's because Carl Deaton's taking this on short notice. He was training for a fight the day before, actually. So he has a full camp, but not a full camp for Joe Selecki. Styles make fights. Selecki's mind was against Benoit Saint-Denis, right? So it's just a Styles flip. That's all I'm saying. And if this stays on the feet, we've seen Selecki get chinned. Keeps his hands somewhat low. He's a sucker for a left hook. I don't necessarily think that Carl Deaton's going to walk away with a victory, but you're giving me 6,800 for a guy who has a ton of submission wins himself. I don't think that he's all that great, but this could be that Steven Kozlov, I say it every week, that punt who, if he keeps it on the feet, he might have the advantage and get us enough 40 points.
Look,
I like him to get 40 points, 50 points, more than I like Montana De La Rosa. But maybe I'm crazy. I might be crazy. But if the field is having single-digit ownership, I'm going to like 5 times the field. I'm just telling you right now.
Okay, I get from a multi-entry lineup, I totally get that thought process. I totally get it. I look at it. Wasn't that long ago Carl Deaton was taking on a guy who's 5-28.
It's true.
Handpicked matchup.
Yeah. He's not alone, though. I mean, everybody does that. He's really not alone. It's just like,
unfortunately, there is a section of the MMA community that wants to see boxing type matchmaking come into mixed martial arts, where literally you have 20 fights and you literally fight tomato can after tomato can after tomato can.
Well, you know what it is? It's because Dana White doesn't give anybody a shot unless if they're 12, 13 and 0. Like, he won't even consider people that go that battle-tested route. They may be 14-6 or 14-7, but they fought the who's who and fought UFC level competition on the regional scene. That is glossed over. People that have taken it the hard way aren't rewarded, but the people that take it and go soft matchup, get a padded record, are now going to get into the UFC or get Ultimate Fighter, opportunities just because of that beautiful record. Whereas the guys that are out there fighting UFC level competition, unless they're managed correctly, they're getting glossed over. So I think that's the issue here, is you're not rewarded for taking tough fights on the regional scene as much as you should be. Now,
if you want to go with the game theory of, you think Carl on a low end in a decision loss gets you 35, 40 points, and you want to team him up with Tatiana Suarez, that would leave you 8,400 average remaining per player.
Now we're talking. You see what I'm doing? That's what I'm doing, Jason. Like, that's what I'm doing for my 150 max.
You better hope. You better hope Joe Selecki don't go out there and pull a Philippe Lins.
No, Joe Selecki better hope that he goes out there and pulls a Philippe Lins, because he's priced at a -6 to 1 favorite. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. The guy he's fighting 17-5. Yes, it's against a lot of poor competition, but like, he was unable to finish some fighters that he should have finished. I think he's very good. I think he's eventually going to get knocked out. It's just a matter of when it happens. I don't think Carl Deaton's the guy, but if Carl Deaton can scramble or even reverse, Like it's literally the same argument that we're having for Brendan Allen against Andre Muniz. It's just Brendan Allen's better. But he's going up against a much higher level jiu-jitsu competitor. So I don't know, man. I
Now,
just see I know how fights are. I see 6-1. I'm like, I'm gonna go the other way. I already placed a bet on Carl Deaton, a small one, just because in case he makes me look smart today.
the one thing I will say that's always a concern with Carl Deaton and anyone who's been following his career is making weight has always been an issue. When he was a 35er, struggled making 35. When he was a 45er, struggled making 45. He has made 55 his past 2 fights, but to me that becomes a question mark of what's that weight cut look like when you've had a struggle with making weight in multiple divisions in the past. That's just a concern for me. Now, I know the guy that you are big on here this week is Aliev, 8,800, taking on Alves at 7,400.
Yeah, so on paper, you guys know I like backing certain fighters I've backed in the past. I see Rafael Alves. I don't even look at the odds. I don't really know much about Nurullo Aliev. I see my boy Rafael Alves there. I'm like, all right, cool. I like him. He's out of MMA Masters. He hunts finishes. He might have the best upside in this low range just because he's just a prolific finisher. He will throw bombs. He will go hunt your neck, has a fantastic guillotine. Will sometimes hunt guillotines and jump guillotines a little too much because what happens is if you don't bail yourself out with the finish, you're now on your back in an MMA fight to get ground and pounded. And you combine that with his poor cardio, it's a recipe for disaster, especially with a very, very strong wrestler in Nurullo Aliev, opposite of him in the octagon. And then I start going and diving into my little social media research and all that. Here we go, Jason. Rafael Alves, January 6th, broken hand. Training with a broken right hand. I remember there was a time we were arguing on stream, and then I brought up the point that some girl broke her back. Remember that? And we were arguing, and I'm like, bro, I am never backing somebody who just broke their back in their return fight to the octagon. And we're talking like relatively short after breaking her back. I just come off of 2 broken hands. So I know there's no way Rafael Alves is completely fine. I didn't even have that bad of hand breaks, but my worst one wasn't to my dominant hand. I can only imagine Rafael Alves with his dominant hand, his right hand, how it was damaged, how it is in the training room. There's things that you have to change. You can't, for me, I couldn't plant a lot in grappling. So it was a lot of bag work, pad work, not a lot of live work, because in the live scrambles and all that, that's when it would really flare up and hurt. So now you see him like 4.5 weeks after having a broken hand, taking a fight, like not even allowing his body to completely heal. It's too soon for me. And I look at Nurullo Aliev as the best takedown threat on the entire card. When I watch this kid's film, he closes the gap really quickly. He laces the legs really well. He will reap the legs inside. He will inside trip, outside trip, keep himself out of harm's way for the most part. But on the mat, I have seen him put himself in triangle chokes numerous times in the same fight. And that's very dangerous against Rafael Alves. So for me, I can't back a guy significantly who I know is coming off of a very recent hand injury. So I'm going to be going Nurullo Aliev, not a lock, but a very, very strong lean. And I'm going to be picking him here. I just think the work rate is going to break Rafael Alves over time. And as long as Aliev, dodges that crazy blitz or that crazy jiu-jitsu attempt from Rafael Alves, I think the fight gets easier every second that ticks off the clock.
That's why, we talked about that high salary range, and you look 8,800 and up. That his ownership is the one that sticks out to me the most, just because of based on what the other ones are getting.
Yeah. Yep, I would agree. And it's kind of like lost in the shuffle. He's unknown. You don't want to pick him. I just circled the fight. I'm going to get to Rafael Alves. But I think that Nurullo Aliev is one of the flag planters of the slate that if you find that crazy takedown artist, you're going to be setting yourself up for success. So give me Nurullo Aliev here.
Of course, we're about to get an answer any questions you have. Of course, line those up, whether you're a member of our Discord channel, which right there free, right there link. Just click that link. You can join our channel over there. Main event, I keep going back and forth on this one. I just keep going back and forth on this one.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with my brain, and my brain says Nikita Krylov.
Okay, I'm going Krylov as well.
Muniz, Brennan Allen. I'm going to go my brain. And I'm going to say Andre Muniz, but man, I think Brennan Allen's a live underdog today.
Okay. I'm going to go Andre Muniz.
Give me Augusto Sakai.
Okay. Dontel Mace.
Okay. I will go Tatiana Suarez.
Tatiana Suarez.
Mike Malott.
Oh, I hate this fight, but I'm going to go Johan Lainesse.
I will go Trevor Peek.
Trevor Peek.
God, this is another one I keep going back and forth on. Give me my underdog number 1 in Jasmine.
Okay. I'm going to go Gabriela Fernandez.
Give me underdog number 2, Jordan Levitt, slight betting underdog.
Yeah, I'm going to go Jordan Levitt.
I will go Charles Johnson.
Charles Johnson.
Joe Selecki.
Okay, I'm not picking Carl Deaton. I put a small wager on him, but it's a salary play for me. I'm going to go Joe Selecki.
And I'll go Aliev.
Aliev.
All right, let's get some questions over here. Best value plays under 8K on DraftKings. Ryan Span's got to stick out to you, right? 7,500. It's got to be one that sticks out to you. Lohan and Lainesse, just because of the upside there. Anyone else really stick out to you from a GPP perspective?
I mean, I'm pretty bullish on Nurullo Aliev. So I just think him training at 𝗃𝗀𝗃 FC, if he doesn't get submitted, I think he wins this fight. So that's a lot of ifs, but I'm willing to be early rather than late. So I'm going to be saying that Nurullo Aliev has some of the best upside. Tatiana Suarez has the best upside on the slate, but I think that Aliev is kind of, right there.
You got any favorite parlays today?
Parlays. Let's see if we can make one. I can put one together. Let me work on that.
We'll get some other questions while you work on that one. What are the priority fights? So to me, it's Krylov Spann, Malott Lainesse, Pete Gonzalez, Levitt Martinez. Those would be the ones that I would put as priority fights.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that the main event's a priority for me. The Tatiana Suarez, just getting her is a priority. And then I feel like that Gonzalez Peak one is just, we're going to need it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. In terms of that one, let's go over here to the YouTube chat, get some questions in over from YouTube. 3 week in a row where the optimal perfect lineup didn't hit the 600 score mark. I can't recall 3 weeks in a row where we've not hit 600 points.
That's a good one. I don't know.
I mean, what makes it kind of difficult this week is you only have 11 fights. Yep. And to me, it's kind of looking at, last week we only had, I think, what was it, 2 fighters who went over 100 points. And then, but this is a card where I think we could see a couple go over 100 points easily. But then there's some, there's some high volatility. And I think, to me, I looked at 2 high volatility fights. Our 2 fights I think are priorities in Levitt Martinez and Malott Lainesse.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like those fights. Those are the ones that are priorities. The Aliev Alves fight, I really think is a priority, regardless of which side you like. If I didn't tell you the news about Alves' right hand being broken, I think that you can make a strong case for him being one of the best underdogs on the slate. He is... he does come with some concerns, though. His cardio does fall off a cliff. He, in his losses, can get finished. So I just think like the wrestling with ground and pound style of Nurullo Aliev can break him over time. But it's a sweet spot salary. I really like the salary. And to kind of go back and talk about the parlay, I actually like this. I just put this together. So I went with what did I do? Yeah, I went with the under 2.5 between Trevor Peek and Eric Gonzalez, which is juiced like crazy, but I still think it's safe. I like doing that. That's at minus 400. You combine that with Nurullo Aliev, who's minus 180, and then you combine that with Charles Johnson, who's minus 170. It gives us plus 209. I kind of like that. I think that's pretty solid.
Let's see here. Spencer says, who are your favorite MVP and cheap plays? Looking at MVP over on DraftKings, the Krylov really does stick out to me of what, how he can rack up points. Look, everyone's going to be on Tatiana Suarez. I think other ones, Mike Malott, I think is another interesting MVP play.
So Selecki and Suarez, as far as MVPs, I can get behind that. And, I said that, I think that Selecki just like, I think the odds are a little too wide. But the Malott, Muniz, Johnson, I kind of view them in the same category, right? Where there are some question marks about Malott outside of round one. I think I'd much rather get to an Andre Muniz where I'm just backing skills instead of backing unknowns.
Let's see here. Frank goes, what's your cash lineup looking, Pete? Obviously not whole lineup, but what's your punt? And besides Suarez, are you putting Selecki in it? It gets rough after that with money left.
I can't really get behind doing Selecki and Suarez. Just not enough amazing underdogs for me to really do that. It's either like one or the other, because at the 8,000 range is pretty sweet. You got Krylov there, you got Aliev there, so it's like, I can't really say Selecki and Suarez.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if you were looking to pair two high-end options together, like I'd pair like Suarez or Selecki with someone like an Aliev. I mean, even give him a lot. I mean, that kind of really limits you. He's at 9,200.
I just think he's overpriced.
Yeah. It's a high price tag, no question. My only thought is if Malott goes with the takedown route, could he just rack up a ton of points? That'd be my question there.
I just don't know if he's strong enough. I think that he can have a good work rate, but like Lainesse can be like 190. Like we've seen Malott get knocked out against 𝗵𝗲𝗏 back in featherweight in PFL, but also it's just like, I don't know. Hey, there's so many question marks. I don't even know if he could take down a featherweight in the second round because we don't know what he looks like in round two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those weeks where it's like, there's high-end options you like, but it's about roster construction to me. I mean, and what does Tatiana Suarez look like, nearly 3 years removed? This is at 125. She came out this week and said her plan is to go down to 115 right after this one. And she is a fighter that she will be fast-tracked to a title shot if she goes out there and looks great.
Yeah, but she needs to pump the brakes a little bit because I think that's the worst thing they could do. Like the worst thing they could do.
You want to know who I think they need to pump the brakes on as a title shot?
Blanchfield?
Yes.
I think she needs.
If I was Blanchfield's manager, I would not be pushing for a title shot.
I think just she's young.
Exactly. And the fact is, who she's beaten. I mean, when you start looking at it, Pete, I'm just pulling it up right now. Her UFC wins: Sarah Alpar, Miranda Maverick, decent win, JJ Aldrich, Molly McCann, who we know can't stop a takedown, and now Jessica Andrade. Like, to me, if I was her, I'd be trying to get like another top 5 type fight before you start potentially taking on someone like Valentina Shevchenko. It's
kind of crazy though when you do that to Jessica Andrade, though. When you do that to Jessica Andrade, it's going to fast track you. That's like Alexander Hernandez.
So apparently, I heard this after the fact, which I wouldn't know this information before the fact, but there were people around the PI that thought Jessica Andrade didn't look great heading into it.
Well, it seemed like she had like a broken hand. Yeah. Like some issues with
and
her
that's
hand,
and
damage.
I feel like we brought that point up last week of like, hey, is it smart to be rushing right back in there into another fight?
Nope. And it's because like financial decisions.
She got a new contract out of it.
Oh, well, Leverage.
I'm guessing that was probably, hey, you take this fight, but you got to sign this new 8-fight deal. That's the way the UFC works, folks.
Yeah, that's true, man. That's true.
Levitt or Mays, DraftKings single entry GPP. Since it's GPP, I would say Levitt.
I agree. I don't like it though, but
it's just it's more of, if you're Dontel Mays, can you go out there and get a finish? I just don't think that fight's going. I don't think it's anything in a finish.
I hope not. I hate that fight. I will say the Jordan Levitt would be the pick in that one-on-one. But yeah, yep. Oh my gosh, we got Eric Lindquist checking us out. What's going on, buddy? Keep doing your great work over there on OddsShopper. I always tend to check out your videos for your NBA plays. Always on fire.
I'm always checking out his prize pick plays. I'm always over there. I saw you had a nice little prize pick play last night, Eric. I saw you over there.
Absolutely. But yeah, and Daily Sam, as far as like the Levitt and Martinez is a very good leverage play because of the unknowns. But leverage also, you got to just be careful. You can have leverage by just having a little bit more than the field. You don't have to go crazy.
Exactly. Sam's over under 7.5. We got 11 fights. Sam, that number's too high. That's too high.
Sam, that's a stinky line, buddy.
Top leverage and optimal plays. I mean, it's tough to get leverage on the field when you're talking about 11 fights. I mean, unless you're talking about an underdog going out there and just stealing the show today. I mean, like there's Osborne's got good ownership. I mean, I think if you're going to do anyone in terms of that one, it might be Victor Martinez. But
okay, you ready for this?
Okay, best all right, Carl Deaton. Okay, president of the Carl Deaton fan club. All right.
I'm just saying, bro. I'm seeing these ownership projections, and I'm like, I'm gonna at least triple the field. Just telling you, at least. Another fighter that I think is going under-owned in relation to the unknown surrounding his opponent is going to be Eric Gonzalez as well. I don't like him as a fighter. Okay. I don't think he's good, but it doesn't take much to get double the field, and then make sure you're not kind of, boxing yourself into a corner the way you don't like. I think that is plenty of room for the rest of your lineups to succeed, even if you get double.
I would say the fighter I'm scared that I'm not going to have enough of in GPPs is Andre Muniz.
You should be scared. He submitted Jacare Souza, and everybody's over here like Brennan Allen, like styles make fights, man. And like Uriah, the only reason he didn't do even better against Uriah Hall is because he's trying shit out there. He's just like, yeah, I'm just going to last 15, 20 seconds. I'm just going to go for it. And then Uriah Hall throws 10 significant strikes while he's on the ground. And everybody's like, oh my gosh. No, dude. Andre Muniz, outside of having a cardio collapse, I think he gets a rear naked choke and submits Brendan Allen.
Rank the 8,800 and 9,100 option for the slate. This comes from Alex's. I think all have either first round or takedown city potential. So 88 to 9,100. So we got Aliev, Johnson, Peak, and Muniz.
I'm going to go personally. Aliev, Muniz, Peak, Johnson.
I'd probably put Peak in front of Muniz because of first round upside in terms of that one.
Yep.
But yeah, I kind of agree with what you had to say there. What are the odds that fight doesn't score well? Jordan is durable, but also can't strike. If he doesn't sub in round one, but doesn't get KO'd round one, could winner score under 90 points?
So, I'd like to talk about this, and I can kind of put this in perspective of two weird things happened last week. Super high priced fighter and Mayra Bueno Silva, who is usually a terrible play at, what was she, 95, 96? She ended up being a part of the optimal lineup because all the other 9,000 options scored in the 80s. In addition to that, we had William Knight, Marcin Prachnio have one of the worst fights in the history of the UFC, and the 82 and 8,000 fight wasn't a part of the optimal. So that construction was super weird because that salary is the sweet spot salary that allows you to get to so much. more often than not, I wish I had the statistics on this. I'd probably say 2/3 of the time, the 8,200, 8,000 fights a part of the optimal lineup, and I just think it's going to be this week as well.
Which fight are we most divided disagree on? This coming from Daily Samuel. The most quality conversation has been about Joe Selecki and guard Deaton for different reasons. Not
Yeah, I mean, I still think like Selecki's going to win, but for me, it's the argument of odds and price. It's just like I've been doing this a lot. I've been doing certain fighters I think that could score decent in a loss that are just completely disregarded. Nobody's getting to them anyway, so if I double, triple the field, it's not going to kill me. And it doesn't take much. It's nice. It's kind of like a stars and scrubs approach, where if you have a bare minimum guy who can, find some minutes off the bench, they can just get you enough. And that combination of paying up for the other studs just set yourself up for a very unique build. So that's kind of how I took my NBA, NFL type of game theory and have applied it to MMA for GPPs. And it's been working out.
Unfortunately, I can't play NFL, so
yeah.
I'm just looking at this slate today, and I'm like, okay. And sometimes me and you do like to get aggressive in terms of locking someone in and saying, all of our chips are going to be in there. Wasn't there someone besides Fletcher last week that you considered it, and then you also pulled away from it? I feel like you texted me last Saturday night. I was drinking a bunch of Jack and Cokes. And you were like, I changed it at the last minute. I decided not to do it. I forget. And I think they ended up going out there and scoring pretty well.
Yeah, I got to go back and I got to see, because I had the combination of all of them together.
No,
it wasn't MMA. You know what it was? It was NASCAR. And it was who was it? I'll find it.
Yeah, if you had told me Ricky Spinhouse Jr. is going to win the Daytona 500, I'd be like, oh man, that's not going to be a good race.
Oh, it was AJ Allmendinger. I remember that.
Yeah.
I said I put him in all my lineups, and then I decided to not do it. That's how I personally play. And I try to trust my reads. And, on the nights it works out, you set yourself up great when it comes to leverage. On other nights, not so much. And Joey Rock, thank you guys so much. 115 likes. Really appreciate you. Almost 200 people checking us out on fight day, baby. And just think, we got this many people checking us out and supporting us on a terrible card like this. I can't wait till we have a very good card, like a pay-per-view to talk about, so we can all hang out. Make sure you guys join the Discord. Get into our community contest so we can see if Jason can repeat and take it down today.
You better hope that don't happen. Happen.
Yeah. I know. I want to see somebody else win it.
I mean, look, I'd love to see it go in my DraftKings account, but I would also love to see one of our listeners win as well. I'm thinking about the game theory of, okay, if I was going to lock someone in.
Who are you doing it? It's Tatiana Suarez for me, bro. I'm just doing it. I don't care about the layoff.
I know.
I'm just doing it.
How about Aliev?
Okay. I tell you guys everything. You guys know this. I don't hold anything back. I'm making a very large portion of my lineups Aliev Suarez, locking them both in.
Okay.
I haven't decided if I'm going all 150 with that, just because there are unknowns, and I don't like how Aliev puts himself into submissions.
So I'm just gonna do a dummy crunch. Well, this isn't good when it only brings up 72 teams possible. Of locking in Suarez and Aliev. Oh, Jesus.
How much Ode Osborne do you have?
35%. Also 35%. Carl.
Is it my boy? Yes. I told you. That's why.
Look, when you're locking in a 9,600 fighter and an 8,600 fighter. Now, let me look. If I just lock in Aliev, let me see what that gives me.
What do you got?
Number 2, Joe Selecki.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying. I'm going to do a portion of it. But what that tells you is that fight is really pivotal for the slate. Like I think it really is. And I can't wait to see if I'm right or wrong.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens there. But of course, appreciate everyone tuning in here for our preview show. Of course, if you're not subscribed to the channel, be sure to do that. Join us in our Discord channel. We're there throughout the fights as well. Pete, any last things you want to mention here, man?
No, good luck, everybody. We'll be chatting in our Discord, and good luck. I think it's going to be a weird build. I'm going to stack some weird fights, not like first fight of the night, but like I'm going to stack like the main event in case it does go 5 rounds or 4 rounds. But yeah, can't wait to actually see a couple of these fights. I'll watch the entire card just because we have a lot on the line. But yeah, good luck, everybody, and let's make some money.
Yeah, I'm gonna be going in the cruncher. I'm gonna be setting up some different things to try to utilize the lineups that I want the best there. But appreciate everyone tuning in. That is gonna do it for this episode of our preview show. Of course, we'll be back next week. We got the pay-per-view, Gane and Jones, plus we got 𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀 and Grasso. So appreciate everyone tuning in here for this edition of the Fight HQ preview show.